cognitive ability. He doesn't even know what his name is anymore. So,
Wow.
and that's a sad situation. So it's been 12 years of those type of costs. He's staying in a very nice assisted living complex where my wife and I have a wellness center station. So we see the quality of living that people are exposed to, have choices for. They've been able to make those choices because they did some certain things. They've recognized principles that are in this book, tax leveraging and those type of things. I think go to a nursing home would be a good thing for everybody to do, to say, what do you want? Do you want that outcome? Live at home outcome? What does that look like? What it takes to do that? What are the criteria? How to qualify for those things? I think this book will give you a great insight of planning for that future. So, Dan, I'm taking your thunder away, but the numbers are pretty staggering. But that's why I asked the first question: when should you start? The sooner you start, the easier it is to accomplish those goals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the other advantages of starting is I'm a big believer in the in Maslow and his hierarchy of needs, and I'm also a big believer, as I know you are, of the law of attraction. What you think about is what comes to you. And if you don't have a plan, and if you don't have leverage set up, if you don't have the forms of income coming into you, if you don't have leverage through financial planning devices to take care of that, if you don't have all that together, when you see somebody else going through that, you start thinking, oh man, I wonder what would happen if that happens to me? What would happen if that happens to me? As opposed to looking and saying, wow, I'm glad I got a plan. Let me go focus on what I need to focus on. So
Exactly.
by taking care of that foundation of taking care of your risk, if you know, again, we talked about 70% chance of rain. Okay. Build your poncho, and so you can get to the game and watch the Braves win.
Appreciate that.
Great advice. Yeah, my wife and I, we started looking at these options, taking a look at our assets. How do we protect them? We met with attorneys, we met with accountants, we met with different people to assess where do we stand, what do we need to do to protect certain things legally, so we don't, one of the other of us don't get caught with our trousers down, as they would say, and not be able to cover expenses or know what the tax liabilities would be, or whatever the case may be. So I think you should encourage. This book will give you a roadmap to where do I start. And I like the 5 wishes in there, because that's sort of where we started, was what are my wishes about how my end of life? Do I want to be revived? All those questions come up.
Right.
If you don't have that clearly written down,
that's the first thing they ask you when you go to the hospital. Do you have advanced directives?
Yeah.
Who's in charge if you're not cognizant? Who's in charge if you're out unconscious on the operating table? There are legal documents that you need to have. We talk about those in the book. And a lot of people call that the living will. But it's a very important, this is not just about insurance. This is about planning and having a plan in place. And if you're expecting other people to be involved in the process, other family members, they should know where they stand and what's going on. And, in the green room, we were talking about, I've talked to people and they say, well, my daughter's going to take care of me. Where's your daughter live? Oh, across the country. Well, what's that going to do to her family life? And by the way, it's usually daughters. Sons are good guys, but it's usually, in the way that things happen, daughters are the ones that step up and take care. But if you're asking somebody to leave a job and leave their family to come and take care of you, I would hope that there would be some financial things set in place so that when she does, that you're going to be able to help that out instead of set the other part of your family back. Care is an important thing. And we talked about a little bit in the book. My wife and her two sisters cared for their mom, who had dementia, for over 10 years. And, it just started off like, oh, let's go up and spend the afternoon with mom and take her to the grocery store with us and do things. But as care accelerated, they were spending time, a good amount of time. There were the three of them were taking care of her, either moving her from house to house or going to her house to take care of her for that 10 years. And they were all still working.
Oh, wow.
And I will tell you that from a business standpoint, what they call the sandwich generation, people who have care issues for maybe their children or even grandchildren, but also have their parents to work with and their needs. It's a big issue at the workplace, because if somebody's an average caregiver spending 35 hours a week providing care, and if they're providing care for 35 hours a week, they're also thinking about it more than 35 hours a week. And there are other things like, I'm coordinating mom's doctor's appointment. We've got somebody coming in to do housework. Is that person there? All these different things they're dealing with. And that's going to end up either causing a physical or mental toll, or absenteeism at work, or what may even be worse, which is what they call presenteeism. Meaning you're there at the job, but you're not doing the job. And I understand why. They're either burnout, or they're having to deal with issues that are popped up, at the house or at the care facility, and it's a big deal. And so businesses need to look at this as a way to cement that group of people, the remaining workers from the baby boomers and the Gen X people, who are now in the majority of the sandwich generation. And if you're not offering different programs and insurance access and planning access at work to those employees, you're at risk of losing them. But on the other side, I was talking to a physician group the other day. They were looking for new physicians to bring to their practice. They said, I've got a tool for you. You can bring long-term care benefits to and planning as a benefit to your employees, and they can feel like you really care about what their needs are. And that's a real big thing that a lot of companies are missing, and some of the biggest companies are doing that right now. But they've got a lot of, the bigger companies have a lot of leeway in whether they can make up if somebody's presenteeism. If you got 15 people working at your company and one of them's present but not there, that can be a really gigantic effect on the company. So there's a lot of issues that go just beyond what happens with the family.
Right. Hey, you brought up a great point, Dan, because now you're talking about boomers, and you called them the Gen Xers, the sandwich. But what I wanted to say there, some people are going back to work on a part-time basis so they can take care of their parents. And
Yeah.
and you're seeing more of that. Is that not true?
Oh yeah.
I mean, people that were somewhat retired are now saying, boom, I gotta, they're not working, a gajillion 80 hours plus work week, but they're finding somewhere they can go to and say, here's my scenario, Dan, this is what I have to do. Here's my plan, 3 to 5 years,
Well, and some of those people are fortunate enough to also be embracing their destiny when they do that. They're doing something that brings value to them instead of the trading dollars for hours.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of those people are trading dollars for hours
Right.
because they need that infusion of cash to help mom and dad.
Sure.
And it's bad. By the way, speaking of caregivers, I just did a survey on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, and I asked who would be your caregiver if would it be somebody from outside the family? Would it be your child? Would it be your spouse? The number one thing was it would be my spouse.
It's kind of scary, isn't it? What if they're not around?
It is
because they're not around. Then who's?
What kind of training does your spouse have? Like, God knows they love you. Hopefully, still.
Yeah, you have to think of the logistics of caring. I'm 250 some pounds, right? My wife's 112. How is she going to handle me if I have to get up off the floor?
Exactly. And you were talking about your knees and your problems. What if you had to help her get up and move around? I mean, so it's like you think, oh, don't worry, I'm going to do that. But what happens is the caregivers have a much faster aging and health issues that develop because they've got more stress, they've got more to do. And again, they're being asked to do things that they're not trained to do.
Yeah. Don't you think that's what creates a caregiver? And you touched on something, I've witnessed it, that creates that burnout, or they start having health deficiencies because of what you're just talking about, Dan. It's even if they're retired, it's just an extra, I don't want to say a burden, excuse me, but it's a task they got to deal with, and they're not physically or maybe even emotionally able to deal with that. If someone falls, I've been there. I've gotten the call more than once to come get someone off the floor.
Yeah.
Yes, I have done that. And good news is
I spoke with a lady a couple months ago who attended one of my webinars, and she was calling about how she could get Medicaid for her husband. She's 83, he's 85. And if you're 83 and you have to deal with all that, plus, she was having all kinds of issues with the state and everything else. I don't really handle Medicaid planning myself, but I have other people that I work with on that I can refer to. And so I referred them to her, and they were working with her. But if you don't have a plan going into your 70s, much less your 80s, having your spouse be the one who's responsible to pick up the pieces is tough. And what happens if your spouse has a heart attack and isn't there, but your plan was my spouse is going to take care of me? You know, it's as Tom mentioned earlier in the interview. That's why you have to have a plan, you know, and have it early. You don't want to be responding to things. One of the people that I work with is a brilliant person who's actually from Wisconsin, who Anna Lee Kruger, and she runs a company called Care Right, where basically she helps people pull these things together when they're in a crisis. So they'll reach out to her and she has to pull all the pieces together, help facilitate agreements with the family members that are probably in 8 different places around the country and all this stuff. If they did the planning in advance, they wouldn't be in a crisis. But the problem is, when you're in a crisis, there's not 3 months to set up a plan. There's 36 hours. And so, you know, there's so much of that right now because people don't have a plan. But my hope in putting together this book and working with people like Anna Lee is that we can put a dent in that, and that there are more and more people who are prepared. And the great thing is, it's like car insurance. If you don't need it, out of the plans, the way they're set up now, if you don't need it, you get a good portion of your money or more of them you put in back. So it's a whole new world, and you know, again, that's why I wrote the book, was because too many people just thought it was a black hole that they didn't want to get sucked into.
Yeah. Mark, I know you had something you wanted to bring up around being a veteran.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, people that are veterans or that have served, they forget about that. You know, they can get some assistance. It's not going to cover everything, but you're talking about strategies and plans. Do you find people overlook that? Let's just say maybe they served, you know, 30 years ago, but you know, they have the right to choose that type of assistance.
There is financial assistance. It's based on whether you participated in a time where we were officially at war.
Right.
And it is asset tested. So, you know, if you're a general with $250 million or something like that, you're not on that list. But if you are, there are not only benefits for the veteran, but also the veteran's spouse, even if the veteran has passed away. So those are very important. Also, veterans can get into, if they're looking for skilled nursing facilities, there are veteran skilled nursing facilities, but I wouldn't use that as my plan because they have waiting lists.
Sure.
Yeah, they're all, most of them are, I don't know if they're all filled, but most of them are filled. And, you know, I was talking to one guy and he said, "Oh, I'm okay. I can just go to the, get care with the Veterans Administration." And I said, "Well, let me just suggest that you call them tomorrow and ask them if they have any vacancies." And he said there was a 3.5-year waiting list.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying that's at every facility. I don't know, but you know, but it's that shouldn't be your first. Your first.
Oh no. I'm just saying it's sometimes people overlook some things that that are available to them. It never hurts to ask.
Well, absolutely, absolutely, and there are plans for people, again, means tested through the Medicaid
Right.
programs, and one of the really cool things that's been that's come up over the last maybe 20 years or so are what they call continuing care communities, where people can go and basically buy into the community. They start off in a villa or an apartment, and then they can get assisted living in the room or the apartment or the villa that they were in from the organization, or they can go to an assisted living portion of that community, and they can go to a skilled nursing facility inside that community, and that's all built into their agreement there. And it's just another tool that people have. Another tool that people have, and Tom, you may be familiar with this, is reverse mortgages. People are sitting on
could you
hundreds of
explain
thousands
that?
of dollars worth of assets.
Mm-hmm.
And the old reverse mortgages were kind of scary, but the new reverse mortgages have been streamlined, and there's so many protections in there. They're another tool that people can use to access cash to pull these things out. But again, if you don't have a plan,
right,
you're not going to get a reverse mortgage in a week.
right.
When something's happening. So if you think part of your strategy is to use some of the equity in your house to fund your retirement, I'm sorry, your care, that's great, but you should already have that reverse mortgage in place. That doesn't mean you need to borrow any money on it, but you need to have it in place so you can have it as a tool that you can use.
Right.
So plenty of tools. And by the way, I don't do reverse mortgages, and I don't represent continuing care communities. So I'm not here putting out ads. I'm just talking, and I don't work for the Veterans Administration either. So,
right.
But there are a lot of tools out there. Each person is a unique person, and they have a unique set of situations, and that's why if you look at the website there to order the book, it's bespokeltc.com, because everybody needs a bespoke plan, not a off-the-shelf plan that is with one carrier or one strategy that you can use. Each person needs their own strategy.
Hey, Dan, just real quick, and then I will be quiet here and let Tom take over. Do you find more people are taking care of their parents at their house as opposed to nursing homes, or what have you found out since you've written this book? I mean, have you ever done a survey on that or inquired about it?
If you ask people, where would you prefer? I did a survey on LinkedIn for that a few weeks ago, and I asked, would you prefer to have care at your house, or assisted living, or in a skilled facility? 100% of the people that responded to the thing said, I want to stay at home.
Yeah.
But what a lot of people don't realize is that it costs money to bring people in and take care of it.
Yes.
And so it's not just, oh, I'm going to be at home and, I'm still going to have the same streams of income coming in and we're going to be fine and everything else. No, in this area, home care basically runs for not skilled home care, but just like visitors that
Right.
come in, anywhere between $25 and $30 an hour.
Another thing people probably don't even think about is, is their home set up be able to accommodate?
There's the other
Absolutely. That's
They got
the other
stairs,
part.
they can't get up and down stairs, bathing, how are they going to get in and out of a bathtub
absolutely.
or a shower, all those things. So if you're going to stay at home, you're going to plan, is my home suitable for me to stay there? If not, what can I
was talking to somebody last week, and he was telling me how he built his house 10 years ago. He's 75 now. He built his house 10 years ago with an elevator in it.
Okay.
He said he's never used the elevator, but he wanted to be prepared.
Sure.
That's okay. Some people live in a one-level home, like my dad did that. His last house was that way. It was all one level.
But you still have to have enough room to get a wheelchair through or walk through, and the doors need to be wide enough and everything else. You have to have a ramp to get up in and out and everything else. So all those things are better to be done in advance, but certainly have a plan in place to get it done if it's needed.
Yeah.
Hey, do you guys mind if I give 2 shout outs? Because I put it in the comments. Sherry Thacker, thank you for watching again. She's watching, and I encouraged her to make a comment or two or ask Dan a question. As a matter of fact, the man himself, Tim Hire, is watching with us. And I told him, I said, hey, glad to have you on board. That's a gentleman I umpired with last week.
How about that? Great.
So he's watching, and he's probably looking at me going, man, I didn't know Mark could be that serious, because yesterday we were having fun, because when you're doing about 6 games, you got to do something to humor yourself. And that's why he mentioned the quote to me, and it kicked in when he said about Valvano, about making people laugh, putting people in thought, and, and then the last thing, cry, and if you do that in a day, that's a tremendous day. And if you're doing that 7 days a week, to me, that's a tremendous life, because it's not a bad thing to do. Might help you live longer. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I try and keep things in perspective and don't freak out when things don't go your way. But some people, everybody's different. They handle situations differently. And, and Tim's probably, if he's listening, I always say to myself when I hear parents screaming and going crazy, I'm like, it's just a game. This is just a game. But listen to this, my voice says inside my skull, and, this really isn't that important. It's about the kids. It's not about mom and dad, but don't tell them that. But it's just interesting. And what you're talking about here, the only reason I jumped in is this book right here. This is what we're talking about, guys. Aging gracefully, planning thoughtfully. A lot of people, like Tom says, and he's instilled within me to look at things from a different perspective. Like, we are going to get older, and yes, we are going to leave the face of this planet. My dad had a saying, everybody gets their turn in the arena, and your time will come, and you're going to go through things, health issues, whatever it is, and you can't escape it. And yes, you will leave. You don't have a choice. We don't live forever. And I think sometimes people are afraid to think of that. Gee whiz, I'm no longer going to be here. I guess there's a certain amount of fear. I don't know. You guys are, I don't know if you're both older than me. I don't know, but I think Tom is. But you tell me, do people have that fear even at your age, that they're afraid to leave the planet? And do you feel that, Tom, or Dan? Do you encounter that when you talk to your peers, or that's a loaded?
I think the closer you get to the age of the average age of expiration date,
Right.
the expiration date that we all see out there, that the thought's got to be there. But,
Sure.
for me, I try and live every day like it's my last and plan ahead like I'm going to live to be 120.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's, and there's, we started this off about what are you grateful for? And, I'm grateful for every day that I've had before. And
Right.
every morning I get up and I'm grateful that I'm still here. And then I figure out what hurts today.
Right. Well, I won't. And Tim, if you're still listening, I know what hurts me. It's my hip. I got tagged pretty hard last night. But that comes with the territory. But you just gotta, I don't know. You just gotta have that mindset. I'm like, well, you know what? I got hit. Yeah, it hurts. But I always look at it like some people aren't around to get hit and get hurt. So shut up and just deal with it. I always think really hard about that. I used to struggle with people afraid to talk about death or, what happens. And I don't know, after watching my dad, he kind of put it in perspective. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to sit here and worry when I'm this age or this. He didn't. He was kind of he lived to be 95, but the last time he went to a doctor's visit, he said to the doctor, what, give me 2 Tylenol and kick me in the ass and tell me to get out of here. Right. And that's the way he looked at it. Go, what are you going to tell a 95-year-old guy? I mean, your organs, are going to shut down. And when that time came, and God bless my sister, she took tremendous care of my father. And she is a former nurse. And she was the caregiver, and that was the game plan. And unfortunately for her, she also had to help her husband later on, who, sorry to say, he's no longer with us, but I wish he was. He was a great guy. But with that said, when we went to him in hospice, he knew we were there, and we talked to him and all that, but he was ready to go. And we just said, hey, if you want to leave and it's good, go. And you want to be with mom and your friends, and you don't need to hang around here anymore. And, it happened. We were sad, obviously, but he's in a much better place. He's probably looking down now saying, yeah, if you only knew and know what I know now, you wouldn't feel for me this way. I feel for you guys, what you're going to go through. I mean, I don't know. That's the way I look at it. I really believe that. That's just me, though. I think the funerals are meant for the living and not the dead. If they're there, they're like looking around going, man, what's going on here? What's the big deal? Everybody dies. And there, as you die, and there are people that are born. And, just had a Orthodox priest explain that to me about the life pattern and process. It's all part of it. And, but I know, and to say I'm not afraid. Yeah, I think that the deal is, Tom and Dan, for me is how you're going to go. We'd all like to just close our eyes and go to sleep. I don't like to see people suffering with cancer and other type of debilitating diseases. That's not a pleasantry, but that's not for us to decide. And your book, when I started reading it just kind of kicked in. I'm like, yeah, these are things I've heard about before, and and they're real practical. What you've given us, you give options. And what I really like in the back of your book is you even have websites and stuff you can reference. That's cool. So you put a lot of work into this. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's, I guess what I'm saying here, Dan, is it's not something that you pick up every day and read, but I think you should, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? It's not
exactly. And it's one of those books that you should read every day, but it's not as thick as the Bible.
Oh, no, it's, yeah.
So thank you for that. Hey, you know what? I see the order the book at bespoke-ltc.com on there, but I wanted to point out before we go that if people do put Elevate 500 in the coupon box, they'll get it for $5.
Wow. That's cool.
That's called Elevate
500.
Elevate 500. Nice. There are other people listening, by the way, and I'm just going to say, as Tom's typing, please tag and share this. That's the beauty of doing these. And yeah, we're live, and sometimes we screw up, and I kiddingly say I'm not the master of live streaming. You can see our names there. Oh boy, that's even scarier. Now we're really in trouble. Uncle Sam's on the lookout, baby. And you know, the other thing I'm going to say too, you know, as we get into things here, and please forgive me, but don't forget to vote. Everybody, take advantage of that and do vote, and get yourself a copy of this book. I mean, Dan was gracious enough to send me a copy, but for $5, please get yourself. That's not going to break the bank, you know. $5, that's a steal.
And just a quick thing on that. I have a whole list of different resources in the back, and people the different types of people you can talk to about this.
Yes.
But I am in business, and Zoom has allowed me to do business in the whole United States. So if anybody wants to talk about plans, or just want to have a quick 20-minute chat, 17-minute chat with me to find resources or get referrals, I'd be more than happy to do that. In the back of the book is a code, one of these little, whatever they call those codes, QR codes.
Yeah, you can scan it.
You can scan that, and it'll take you right to my booking site. So, and the way we do business is that we don't work with any one insurance company. We look, if we're going to go for insurance, we're going to try and find the best deal for you in the marketplace. So,
hey Dan, I don't mean to steal your thunder, but really, I mean, like, you got stuff down here about caregiver resources, caregiver organizations and support, senior advocacy and interest groups. You've got special disease process and organizations online. I mean, these are legitimate. AARP, I notice, is in here. Caregiver resources. This is important. Geriatric care management, caregiver resources, medications. I mean, all this stuff's pertinent to everyday life. And I thank you for doing that, because, you know, I know me and someone else will probably be talking more about this, because that individual said to me, you know, when you get done reading that, I want to go through that. Because,
well, all they have to do is spend $5 now. So
I know. But no, it's very, very well written and detailed as far as your references, and I appreciate that, because I'm big on that. And I'm like, you know, when I saw that, I'm like, hey, this guy did his homework.
There was a lot of homework.
Yeah. Tom, you're awfully quiet up there. He's pensive.
I was just updating the code for the $5 book. So
okay, all right.
Well, you know, I've been going through this book since I got it, and something's very needed in our culture and our marketplace of planning for the what if questions, and what does that look like. So great job. Very comprehensive, gives you open your eyes, and start asking those questions, start taking action, not tomorrow, but today. So encourage everybody to get the book. And you know how to get a hold of Dan. You reach out to Mark and I, and we can make sure we get. Do you have an email, anything you want to post up here, Dan?
Nah, I'm good.
All right, bud. Okay. We are going to put you in the green room. Don't you go anywhere. Mark and I'll wrap up here. And we got.
Oh, and I love the donuts in the green room. They're really good.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't know we still had those.
Well, they're a little.
Are they stale?
Yeah, they're a little stale.
They could have a growth on them. Could look like a science.
You mean that wasn't green icing?
Oh, okay. It could be the science project then.
A little penicillin there, so you're
yeah.
safe.
You know, we're helping you with your aging process, Dan.
I don't need any vaccines right now. Then, so good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You won't.
Well, Dan, it's a pleasure having you on. You're making a difference in the world. So don't go anywhere. Mark and I wrap up here. We've got a couple announcements and do our little commercial, and we're out of here. Okay.
All right. Thanks.
See you next week, everybody.
Thanks, everybody who's listening.
Thanks.
Book
Dan.
information is scrolling on the bottom. Elevate 500 is the code for the discount to get the book for $5.
And it's Elevate without a space, 500.
Yes, correct.
If you put a space in there, it will not work. So
Defunct-o, yeah.
Okay, I'll fix that right quick. Just so that anybody sees on the replay.
Absolutely. And Dan, thank you again for sharing all your wisdom and knowledge with us about this. I wish it would have, but you didn't write the book then. So I was going to say like, hey, 10 years ago, this would have been great. You know?
Well,
right.
it still is great.
Don't look at the past. Don't look at the past. Look at the future. So
absolutely.
Well, Dan, thanks for being here.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
I'm glad we had him on because this is so relevant to in my own life. I know yours, Mark, and you're experiencing some of these things that people haven't planned for effectively, so
it's absolutely. It's making me think about me too.
Oh, absolutely.
And you don't want to be a burden to your children. It's kind of the running joke sometimes when, you know, I will say some things to Gina. I'll say, hey, you need to be nice to our sons because you realize that they're probably going to be the ones, if not them, then their spouses taking care of us, God forbid. But, you know, so you need to be cool with them and not get them upset at us.
Yeah.
But as my younger sons will say, well, you know what? You know, maybe we'll let Dad live with us. Mom, I don't know about you. You know, kid, I say, don't even kid about that.
All right.
But no, he talked about a lot of unique situations, and if you're going through it, I would not hesitate to tell anybody get it for $5 because it's a great reference and a resource. Really, you can go in there and say, hey, what about this, this, and this? And you can even get in touch with Dan.
Sure. Well, we have a guest next week.
I believe we do. I'm going to insert foot and mouth. I've got to send out the invitation. But if you remember Pillar to Post and home inspections and real estate and all that fun stuff, we want to get Jim Skursky back. He's got some new toys out there that he's implementing, and things are drastically changing here in Peachtree Corners as well, and can't wait to pick Jim's brain as to what's going on out there. So, he even talks about decks and making sure that you get them inspected, not just the house part, but other things that are part of your house. So always like talking to him.
Yeah. knowledge is power. So encourage everybody that is buying a home, has a home, looking to buy a home, whatever the case, join us next week so you be well prepared for getting that property in the condition you expected to get it in, or be aware of what it's going to be for you. Also, can I do a commercial?
Oh, sure.
Queue Up Fundraising. If you're involved in a nonprofit organization, Queue Up Fundraising is a platform to help nonprofits earn money by marketing a home entertainment service called Q Streaming. Portion of those revenues go to the fundraising efforts for the nonprofit. So if you're involved in a nonprofit looking for a very lucrative, very easy implemented platform, reach out to me. You can contact me through Q Up Fundraising, and we'll get back to you. We got a survey on there, so if you're in a fundraising organization, fill out the survey form. It gives us a better picture when we do talk of what your needs are, and make sure that our platform for fundraising is an appropriate one for your organization. So with that all said, I want to encourage people to go to Queue Up Fundraising. Please refer us out. We will make a difference in the world. We have a lot of different causes that we want to support, and this is another two elements that organizations short of. Resources, number one, is people. Number two is money. I can help solve the money issue with the Queue Up Fundraising. So I encourage you to contact us, and be glad to walk you through the process to have a successful organization with a fundraising campaign. So that's my commercial.
That's beautiful.
Cool.
That's all I got. I think we're done.
Next week, 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you again. Was it Pillar to Post?
Yes, I got to verify that now. If it changes, I'll let you know. But
okay.
I think next Monday, we talked last week. Next Monday is a definite hitter. And this is the last day. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this not the last day of September?
It is.
Man, where has time gone, my friend? Yeah.
As they say, the older you get, time flies. So, yes. So without any further ado, let's wrap her up, and we'll see everybody next week.